Whew, I love that trailer. Hello and welcome to the CMON live stream. Thank you for joining us for an epic show celebrating the pre-order launch of Dune War for Arrakis and its all-new expansion, Desert War. Today is also special because this is our first ever on-location stream. I am coming to you live from ABU Games in beautiful Boise, Idaho. ABU is one of our CMON Play retailer partners and one of the largest game stores I have ever visited. I think you can probably hear the echo. They have an incredible selection, a great game library, tons of space to play, and we're grateful to them for hosting us here today. If you're in the Boise area, definitely stop by and check them out. As always on the show, we have a lot to cover, and we want to answer as many of your questions as we can. So ask away in the comments. All right, let's get to it. First up, I am always happy to introduce back to the show one of the biggest Dune fans I've ever met, Dune War for Arrakis and Desert War producer, Tiago Arana.
Hello.
Hello, sir. How are you?
Good to be back on the live stream.
It's so great to see you. I thank you again, as always, for staying up late for the show. We're always excited to have you.
Yeah. The sleeper has awakened. I took a little nap around midnight to be up at 2 a.m. in the morning. So
you're fresh. You're ready.
I'm good. Yeah, I'm
Excellent.
ready. I'm keeping myself hydrated, and let's go with it.
Amazing. Next up, joining us once more is the multi-talented co-designer of Dune War for Arrakis, Francesco Nepatello.
Hello. Buongiorno, everyone.
Hey, Francesco.
Buongiorno. Thank you both for being here on our very first on-location live stream. Everyone here in Boise, Idaho says hello.
Thank you. I'm very happy to join you for this live.
Well, it's good. I cannot wait to dive into it and discover more about Desert War. As many of you know, the pre-order campaign for Dune War for Arrakis kicks off in about an hour. So right after this live stream is over, it should go live. It, of course, features an all-new expansion called Desert War that I think we're all dying to reveal. But first, I want to talk a little bit about the original game for people who haven't played it yet, who are joining us for the first time. Let's talk about Dune. Let's talk about the core box. First, I want to know from both of you, how does it feel to return to the world of Frank Herbert's Dune?
Oh, we never left, right? And I think it never left us. Whether with the release, the game has just reached the backers fairly recently, and now going on retail. So it's been really great to see, everybody really enjoying the game. Like the feedback has been amazing, and it was interesting the synergy, the unplanned synergy of the game coming out at about the same time as Dune Part 2, the movie came out, and really there's this fervor for Dune, which is long overdue. I've been waiting for this all my life, and I think finally people seem to have caught up to the wonders of Frank's universe. So I think we've been immersed in it ever since. So we're just coming back to you with it, but I think Francesco will agree. It's always been with us.
Yes, we never left. You're right, and also the world of Dune has been with us, well, for most of our lives as fans, but now for a very long time still as designers and developers of the game. It's been a game long in the making, but I think that everyone who has the game now, who played it, can see the care that we put into crafting the game. And I must say that it feels, I don't know if I'm being not very humble in saying that it feels like a victory lap to be here on this pre-order, because we've been really received so well by the fans, and they like the game. They're trying to all different types of strategies and trying to break the game and to find the best way to either win with the Atreides or the Harkonnen. So every designer knows that it's such a fantastic feeling when finally something falls in the hands of the fans and they start toying with it, doing things that you maybe didn't even imagine.
Yeah, especially when it's a positive reaction, right?
Actually,
yes. Yeah, it's been incredibly rewarding, I think, to see a lot of the videos that have been made by streamers and influencers and game reviewers and everything, and it's been really exciting to see people enjoying the game. what actually for people new to the game or people maybe who have been on the fence, how would you describe the game itself?
Should I go? Well,
it's your baby. Come on.
Well, I can say it's a strategy board game from 2 to 4 players that puts you exactly in the heat of the conflict. It's not a game that, yes, the very high heat of the conflict doesn't focus on the many facets that the story of Frank Herbert's has. I mean, we're not dealing with all the planetary or galactic even intricacies of the politics. We dive into the conflict that broke House Atreides in the story, and we allow you, the players, to retell the story of the rise of Paul Muad'Dib, or eventually the rise or fall of Muad'Dib. Because in this case, of course, it's in your hands whether the Atreides will prevail on the Harkonnen forces that recaptured the planet. And if you know the story, you know that House Atreides fell for a conspiracy that was woven by the Emperor together with Baron Harkonnen, Vladimir Harkonnen, and there was a coup that completely took the Atreides, not really unprepared, but impossibilitated to confront it. And so they were almost annihilated. And Paul Muad'Dib and his mother, Jessica, they were forced in hiding in the desert. In the desert, they found the desert power. They found that there was so much more under the surface of planet Dune that even the Harkonnen suspected. And they built an alliance that proved in the end to be there to give them the victory against the Harkonnen. And that's exactly what you do if you play as the Atreides. You're going to play with these two factions, the Atreides and the Fremen. So with a plethora of characters from both factions, and especially their armies, the units. You, as the Atreides, you're fighting a sort of a guerrilla war against the forces of the Harkonnen that, at least in the beginning of the game, are almost overwhelming. They have an iron grip on the planet. They cover all the strategic parts of the planet, but they are not in control of the desert areas that are actually where the Fremen reign. And as you know, the Fremen can count on things like the huge sandworms, and they can exploit stuff like the Coriolis storms and so on. All these elements are in the game in a way that makes for every game a completely different experience, because there are two opposing ways to victory. The Harkonnen player play to win by supremacy, by conquering the desert, defeating the Fremen that are hiding in their sieges, their bases in the desert. And on the other side, the Atreides can win by realizing a prophecy, the prescience, the possible futures that Paul Atreides see with his mind's eye, because he may become the Kwisatz Haderach, the chosen one that can see all futures. And in the game, this is realized through a mechanic, a deck of prescience cards that are sort of objectives that the Atreides player can try to achieve during the game, at the same time as they defend against the onslaught of the Harkonnen. So this is such a huge game that, of course, if we start focusing on any of these parts, it's going to take the whole live. But as you can see from the picture here, you can see that you have everything at your disposal. You have armies, different types of units. You have vehicles, because the Harkonnen must attack the Fremen, but at the same time they have to let the spice flow, because they are on that planet because of a task given by the Emperor and by the great houses of the Landsraad, and it is to mine spice from the planet. And so they have to do that using the huge harvesters and using carryalls to protect them and so on. And then there's the whole level of the characters. And this brings this to this image. We have the two different sets of characters that modify your options as far as actions go. The game revolves around the system of action dice. There are dice with different icons, and the icons represent different menus of actions: strategy actions, mentat actions, house actions, a number of actions that are clearly defined on your dashboard, so it's easy for you to see which actions are available at every turn. And your characters have cards that are placed on the dashboard, and the characters modify your options. So everything comes very much alive during the game, where you see if you're focusing on one strategy or another, and you can tell which characters are making a difference for you. If it is Bistraban because you are trying to take a siege of the Fremen by surprise, by attacking because he allows you to move legions faster, and he's very powerful in battles. Or you can use the Emperor himself. He can come into play later on. Oh yeah, I forgot to say that since the game is a 2 to 4 players game, it's actually the two factions are actually 4 factions, because on one side there's House Corrino, that is the house of the Emperor, and the Arconen. On the other side, it's the Atreides, what's left of the Great House of the Atreides, and the Fremen. And so all the characters you probably drawn
So
to.
actually, one question there. It's not actually a 2 to 4 player game, because you also developed a very well developed solo mode, the Mahdi solo mode. So you can play the game solo as the Atreides, with the Harkonnen being controlled by a quite robust set of rules to keep the game flowing. And I've been very happy to see that people really embrace the solo mode. Some people play it like almost exclusively solo. People play 2 players, people play 4 players, 3 players. Like it seems I really succeeded in making sure it works in either way. They each offer a slightly different experience, but the game is always represented there, no matter the player count from 1 to 4. And another thing I'd like to point out is how well you managed to really inject the theme of Dune into everything that you could in this game without doing more than the game asked for. Because I think it's tempting to just try to shove every little aspect of the universe in a game to the point where it becomes over-cluttered, and there's unnecessary mechanics and unnecessary complication and specificity. And I think you managed to strike a good balance where wherever it would make sense for something to be in a specific way and for something to be represented, it is there. Like when you're calling sandworms, you have the whole balance of spice harvesting, you have the Bene Gesserit, you have all these things showing up in the game, each in their role, always benefiting the mechanics and the dynamics of the war, and not just being, oh hey, we do remember this thing from the book and it's there, you see. So I think it was a very successful way to do it.
Go ahead.
Oh, I wanted just to say that it was exactly one of the design goals to be able to do that. It was basically a process of destructuring the story by Frank Herbert down to fundamental elements, and to turn those fundamental elements into game mechanics that could be rearranged in different ways by the players. Some games, thematic games, find it impossible to do that, and they tend to allow you to basically replicate the same story, and often it's enough. If the game is good, that is possibly enough. But in this case, I really like the fact that by destructuring the game, the story like that, what comes up of every game is an alternate telling of the story of Dune, and every time it feels plausible. There's nothing in a game that happens that makes you think, oh, okay, that could not happen in the story. Every time it is really rooted into the theme so much that it is something that could happen at least.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I absolutely love about this design and that philosophy, it's I played this game so many times with 1 expansion, with 2 expansions, with them combined, with any order, and it doesn't ever break up the flow, because everything's kind of boiled and makes sense and kind of fits together so nicely. Adding in additional elements, there's really very little lift, and everything still feels like it's part of the same game. And that seems to be what a lot of the message boards are saying and the reviews are saying, which actually brings us to the star of today's show.
Let's move into the Desert War.
Should we talk about Desert War?
Let's go for it.
All right, let's do it. So we have Dune Desert War, the latest expansion for Dune War for Arrakis. And can we give a quick close-up of this art?
Yeah. So big shout out to Stefano Moroni, who he did all the art for this expansion this time, and he, well, once again knocked it out of the park. I was already in love with when he did the sketch for this cover. I already felt like it was just completely awesome, and then he shows up with a color version, and I just like, my God, this is everything.
Yeah, I like his style so much, especially if you look at the art for the Prescience cards. The style and the color he chose are so effective that they actually feel they have a sort of a biblical feel, and they're so well that's so well connected to the fact that we are talking about an almost biblical story, because we're talking about a Messiah, and we're talking about prophecies. And when you look at the cards, especially in the Prescience deck again, it's you see all those possible futures as they are like episodes from almost a religious book.
Yeah, it's interesting because going back to the films, like early on, like when we got the license to do the game, we had the option, because the first film was still being developed, it was in the works. Like we had the option of following like the films, the art style, like the actors, everything directly, but we deliberately chose not to. And I think this was a very happy choice, even though like the film is amazing and I love it and everything, it looks gorgeous. I feel there's still space for something like this, which would never be in Denis' film. Like this explosion of colors it's more fantastical, more mythical, instead of this more down-to-earth look that Denis did to his films. So I think it's a very nice complement as a take on the universe. And at the same time, like it is very similar. Like we're dealing with the same things, and I think this expansion even bridges even more that gap, because like this expansion, like let's be honest, this was heavily inspired by Dune Part 2, the film, and we were just awestruck by some of the things we saw there, and it reignited our passions for it, and it really informed some of the things we decided to inject into this new expansion.
Yes, so sorry again, Jeff.
No problem.
I think that the brainstorming session that we had with you, Tiago, at the beginning of the process of designing the Desert War was maybe one of the shortest brainstorming sessions ever, because we immediately agreed on what we wanted to see there. And yes, we were just fresh out of seeing Dune 2.
Well, so let's talk now about how everything kind of works together to tell the story of Dune. What can players expect in Desert War? What does it add to the game?
Now, the Desert War is... Oh, you wanted to take this one?
No, go ahead.
Okay. Well, with expansions to a game like Dune, we made an effort to put everything in the core game. So the core game spared nothing. Everything we wanted to be in the core is there. So expansions are not filling any blank. They are zooming in something that is already there in a way. And with Smugglers, we will see later. But Desert War is exactly the same thing, and the title tells you all. It is about focusing on giving more details on what happens when the Atreides and their Fremen allies clash with the Harkonnen on the desert, especially for as far as the mining of spice is concerned. So we have desert troopers, so new units Actually, technically, they're not units, so they don't work as the units composing legions in the game. They work differently. They are special troops, let's say, with specialized things that they can do. Rocket launchers are quite easily spotted in the cover, are one of the desert troopers that are added in the game for the Fremen Atreides. And it's easy to say what they do. They focus on attacking vehicles of the Harkonnen. So they can be used.
We'll get to each of them in focus.
So yeah, just in general, it is a zooming in of what happens out there in the sand expanses of Planet Dune.
So basically, it fleshes out the warfare, the conflict on the battlefield of Arrakis, right? Adding more options and more strategies for the players.
Yeah, and since it's an expansion, it is dedicated, of course, to the dedicated gamer. I mean, if you play Dune and you want more, Desert War is giving you more, and it's giving you more nuance on parts of the game, and it's giving you more options. And especially, we made sure that it's giving you also more fun.
I think we should switch in and we can take a closer look at some of the individual components.
But before that, just because we have it there, kind of showing one important thing is in the pre-order we are already bringing this expansion not only in English but also in German and French, and this is a theme that will continue through much of the pre-order campaign. We're going to talk a bit more about that later on. But yeah, let's dive into the Desert War because I love those units. Well, not units. Yeah, I think this is one. This is most obviously, I think, inspired by just an epic scene in the epic opening of Dune Part 2, which is the Suspensor troopers, which like I had to see that come alive in our game, and I think that this was an interesting challenging to figure out what exactly made this kind of trooper stand apart from a regular trooper, right?
Yeah. Of course, this is a riff on the stories because we know that the Harkonnen had this type of technology, and of course it makes sense that the Suspensor technology could be used in different ways, and of course, yes, we took inspiration from the movie and tried to imagine what those type of troops could do compared to regular troops that are just walking or being carried by troop transports. And
these guys, they are wearing like heavy environmental suits and the suspensors, so they are particularly well adapted to survive and deal with the harsh realities of the deep Dune desert, right?
Yeah, the Desert War rules, as far as the Harkonnen are concerned, are in some ways the answer of the Harkonnen to the desert warfare tactics of the Fremen. They're trying to do something to compete with the overall superiority that the Fremen have on their home planet. And so the desert troopers are this type of thing. It's the type of invention that the dominating power could have had fighting local troops. And so Suspensor troopers are easy to deploy. They are easy to move around the board. They are more resistant, as Diego said, to the environment of the planet, because as you can see in the movie, for example, they could escape from sandworms by moving on rocky outcrops, and so they can fight fire with fire. And in gaming terms, they do things like removing worm signs on the board. They can remove opposing desert troopers, and they can scout. And so, yeah, they give you a flexibility that otherwise you won't have. Oh, by the way, there's one philosophy that I think is important to underline. The rules for the Desert War are not giving you alternatives to other strategies. So you're not using troops like Suspensor troops as an alternative to moving your legions. So if you know the game, you know that you have a finished number of moves in the whole game. So it was important to make a player feel free to use additional stuff instead of agonizing, or should I do this or should I do that, and maybe disrupt their strategies. So there are a number of tokens, Desert War tokens, that the Harkonnen player spends to use Desert Troopers in addition to their regular move.
Yeah, so we're basically allowing you to do more stuff in the same time that you have with the game. We're not diluting the game by adding stuff. We're making it really more potent in a way.
Yeah.
All right. Shall we move on to the next? And I love this is one of my favorites. The next component.
Yep.
I mean, come on.
Summon the worms.
Again, Sunriders needed to be there because, of course, of those fantastic Sunriding scenes in the movie. And actually, I think that what we came up with for them will be well received by players playing the Atreides and Fremen in the game, because while I think we have a robust mechanic for worm signs and the possibility of sandworms appearing on the board, because they are handled with tokens, and tokens are not like dice. So it's random, but to a measure. It's not a completely random system that makes sandworms appear. But actually, placing Sandriders on the board, they are placed together with worm signs when you take a Desert Power action, if you know the game. You place them on the board together with a worm sign. They basically make sure that a sandworm will appear. And so it's a very strategic function of the Sandriders. And when you combine a sandworm figure with a Sandrider, when they are in the same place, because the Sandrider just summoned a sandworm, well, the sandworm is bad business for for the Harkonnen, because it's going to move more distant and to be more powerful.
Sandrider is basically an upgrade to your sandworms, because you have an expert Sandrider controlling him. The Old Man of the Desert really will wreak havoc on the Harkonnen troops. And I think one small aspect I read a nice thematic thing about it is that a sandworm by himself, a Sandrider by himself, is like a fairly fragile piece on the board. Like it can easily be wiped out if a Harkonnen legion moves in. Like they can be easily defeated. But I really like the touch that when a Sandrider is taken out like that, I think the last thing he does is just pound the sand, and a sandworm will appear to exact his revenge on the attacking troops, for sure.
Oh, I think that the production is amazing, by the way, again. And one of the things that make it easy, I mentioned that Desert Troopers are not regular units, are not units like the others that compose your legions. And one of the things that make it really easy to spot when you play the game, as you know, we use different base shapes to do that. We have round bases for regular units, square bases for elite units, and hexagons for the tough guys like the Sardaukar and Fedaykin. In this case, we have pentagons for the basis of the Desert Troopers. So all of them are easily spotted to be something else.
Also, one little detail about this sculpt. I do have because I had a very specific vision, of what this guy should look like, waiting for the worm to come with the maker hooks extended. And so I have a very interesting photo of myself in this exact pose, like holding a couple of I think the playmat tubes on each hand, trying to do the right bend of the knees and the attitude, very with eyes fixed on the horizon, waiting for the old man to come. So
now that's it's you there.
This is me under the hood. Yes.
You okay?
So moving on, I think we're going to take a new look at a familiar vehicle.
Oh yes, the Escort Thopter.
Yes,
I love this design. So this was one that I worked very closely with Stefano Moroni developing this design. It was just such a it was kind of painful, because initially he just showed up with 7 or 8 designs for this. And I was just like, come on, just show me 2, one good and one bad one, and let's go with it. And he had all these awesome things, some more familiar, some weirder, like all different kinds of bugs that he envisioned, kind of basing itself on. Each one had a different name of a different bug, because vehicles in Dune, they are often kind of bug related. They have this bug quality. And then I was just, like, this is cool, but this is more original, and this makes more sense in terms of the role that it plays, and we want it to be distinct from the other Thopters. It's not a carry-all, but it's heavier than a regular Thopter. And in the end, we locked down on this design with, like, it's a Thopter with more wings, with 2 tails. You can see it can carry more troops, it can carry more firepower to really add more like a very good reinforcement for the Harkonnen legions. So what does he do?
That Stefano Moroni is a huge fan of Dune, and it was a very nice conversation that we had when we met the last time at Luca Comics and Games, where he said that working on this project was amazing for him because not always you receive directions, his words as an artist, that in some ways align with your ideas about something. And in this case, he said that every time he got any details about the game mechanics of the game, he was completely amazed by the fact that the world of Dune was actually coming to life with the game. And
so this is one of my favorite additions to this expansion. So tell us a bit more about it.
Yeah, it's a nasty ornithopter, and it's easy to play because you can use an escort ornithopter. You can place it on the board in place of a regular ornithopter. If you do that, you are basically forfeiting the possibility to scouting, because it's one of the things you can do with ornithopters. You cannot do it with an escort ornithopter. But when you use it to attack, using an army, in the game, you use ornithopters to move to regions instead of one with a legion, either to move or to attack. If you do that to attack, you actually, instead of discarding the ornithopter as you do with the regular ornithopters after the movement, you place it in the region that you attack. And the ornithopter becomes like a leader, so it adds you the possibility of counting special results on your dice, and can be removed to absorb 2 hits. So it's like an elite unit. So it adds firepower to your legion, and of course it needs to be used with some strategic thought, because it is, when you place an escort ornithopter in a place, you are telling something to your opponent. Like,
this matters.
You're thinking really hard in attacking in some area that is connected to that ornithopter.
Yeah, it's not a subtle machine.
Yes.
So I want to move on to the next one, which, I mean, I'm just happy there's going to be way more explosions in Dune.
Yeah, more explosions, always better. And yeah, this again, I think heavily inspired by Dune Part 2. I think one of my favorite sequences there is the Fremen attack on the Harvester. So yeah, seeing rocket launches, which like they are mentioned heavily in the books, it is part of the Fremen strategy. So being able to go with that specificity in the expansion to have those guys out, I think really changes the dynamics of the game, because it gives the Fremen, the Atreides, like a direct counter for one of the strengths of the Harkonnen with all their machinery.
Yeah, I might be biased by the fact that my last game this morning I was playing the Harkonnen, and the rocket launchers are really a pain when you play the Harkonnen and you see your opponent deploying them on the board. You think, because you can see your harvesters go down in flames, or even your ornithopters. They can do one thing or the other, or both, if they are played correctly, and if you get lucky a lucky die roll, but yeah, you can use them, a lot of those. You can use them repeatedly using desert war actions. So it's something that the Fremen, it's absolutely a new weapon in the arsenal, and makes it absolutely more worthwhile for the Fremen player, Atreides player, to start countering the spice harvesting strategy from the Harkonnen.
That's excellent. We briefly had a question pop up there.
Sure.
I think we can get to it. What ensures that the new ornithopters are not a no-brainer, since scouting is rarely the best use of an ornithopter? And that's from Pascal.
Well, for one, limited resources, right?
Yeah, it's a limited resource. When you play an escort ornithopter, you can play one, and then eventually you can play another. But it's not an open-ended resource. So you have to use it sparingly and in the right place. And also, for example, you shouldn't play it when, well, actually there's a response action. If you have one in a position that is extremely critical, you're telling your opponent your strategy in advance. There's a possibility that the Fremen player then plays rocket launchers in the area where you played the escort ornithopter. And so it's a back and forth strategy of bluffing or counter bluffing. So it's not always so. It's not exactly a no-brainer in this case.
Mm-hmm.
Let me check one thing. Yes.
So should we move on to the last piece of
Sorry,
this
that was
expansion?
on mute. Yes, I was just saying that to myself.
Right. Yeah, so these are the Fremen camps, which one important thing. So this expansion will go to retail eventually, and in the retail version, the Fremen camps will be solely cardboard tokens. So this is one aspect that the pre-order version of this expansion will be different from the regular one, in which you will get 3D sculpted versions of the Fremen camp. Again, very nice design by Stefano Moroni to bring these pieces to life, and they are kind of like a cornerstone in how you use like some of your Desert Trooper miniatures. Can you expound on it, Francesco?
Yeah, actually I was I was almost moving to discuss this when we were talking about the rocket launchers, because they are connected to those. And in fact, the rocket launchers are not meant simply to work as a counter to a spice harvesting strategy by the Harkonnen player, but they actually are a way to, again, make your prescience strategy be a little more under control. If you know the game, you know that your prescience is based on drawing a number of prescience cards, and those cards change every round. So you don't always have control over which types of points you're accumulating, because you have three potential goals to achieve, and you have to have a number, three different scores to achieve to win the game as the Atreides player. When you play with the expansion, with the Desert War expansion, those desert camps hide. They allow you to get points for prescience connected to the three different possible objectives. So they can be used to counter a bad draw of the prescience cards. That sometimes has been also one thing that some Atreides player have been pointing to, the possibility that you can be unlucky, but of course you need to be very unlucky, because it's the game has been done in a way that, of course, it tends to limit the possibility of having a very bad draw. You draw cards every turn, and so on. And so the desert camps also do that. They allow you to try and get that missing point that you really needed, instead of waiting for the right card to appear.
Yeah, and like we did with the 3D tokens from the original campaign, you have the flat token indicating the prescience symbol that you can get, and then the 3D sculpt goes on top of it, covering the token, so it's hidden under there, and then you can reveal it and find out what you can get and when you use your framing camps.
So I think we're about 15 minutes away. There is a lot of information about Desert War. I'm gonna have to digest it. I cannot wait to see the subtleties and how that affects the game, because I think that, like I said, the previous expansions have done so much, as you said, to zoom in on certain elements that are already found throughout the game, and this looks like it's going to do the same. But most of the questions over here are actually about what is going to be offered on the pre-order. Now, again, this is a pre-order, not a campaign, so this doesn't need to fund. This is going to be open. We don't have a closing date yet, but I think we're overall trying to make sure that everyone is able to get most of, if not all of, what they want. So I want to let Thiago kind of dive in and talk about what we have, kind of how we structured this.
Yeah, so basically this campaign was another way, a chance for us to bring back all of the goodies from the original campaign, especially like all the exclusives from the original crowdfunding. So they were exclusive from one campaign, now they're exclusive for a new campaign. And so can you go back there, the previous one? Yeah, so basically all the add-ons we're offering here are exclusives. Because the game is already out on retail, and it will come out, like the German and French versions should be out very soon. I think they're scheduled for October, if I'm not mistaken. Everything should be coming out. So we don't want to overstep those boundaries, but we do want to give everybody a chance to to get all the exclusive stuff. So on the basics of it, we are offering again the exclusive edition of the core box. In English only, because that's the only one that was actually created. So this is the big box with the same one as we had in the original campaign. It has all the core box elements plus all the exclusive stretch goals that we unlocked throughout the campaign, all in one big golden inlaid box that's really looks very good on a shelf, even if it barely fits in it, but it does fit in it. And then, one thing we wanted to cater to is we do have a lot of people hopefully going into this campaign that already have the core box.
The retail version of the core box, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if you've bought the retail version of the core box, or if you're planning on buying the retail version of the core box in the future, maybe in German or in French, we didn't want to force people to buy a whole exclusive edition core box to get all the stretch goals. So we have created a new box, which is the exclusive extras box, which is a smaller box containing only the exclusive stretch goals. So if you pair your retail core box with the exclusive extras core box, you basically have all the content from the exclusive edition core box. And what this exclusive content is, Francesco, can you go a little bit on all the goodies that we added to the game in terms of the exclusive stretch goals?
Well, the main thing, the biggest thing that you can see on the image is the oversized version of Shai-Hulud, and this is not just a gimmick; it's something that actually has a role in the game. You can play in the game the Old Man of the Desert. So this is one thing. Then there are all the possible future characters. There's a number of characters that, since we were sticking to the actual canon situation in the story as told in the books, when the coup by the Harkonnen already happened, some characters already died, some were not overly relevant. So we created a number of possible scenarios that are called collectively possible futures, and those add a variable number of characters to each situation, allowing you to play alternate versions of the game. So if you want to have Dr. Yue in the game, you can do that. You can have Duncan Idaho, you can have Lady Fenrir, and so on. So all different characters that get in the game and add something to the replayability of the game.
They're all kind of different modules that add a little twist to how the game is played. And then we also have like a bunch of bling that we add to the game. We have like cardboard versions of all the dashboards, 3D versions of all the locations and cities and all that. A nice cloth bag for your Rebel deployment, for your Fremen deployment. So just cool stuff to make your game feel and play a little nicer. And this, so the exclusive extras box will be available in also French and German, so you can complement your retail core box.
Also on the campaign, offering up the Smugglers Dune, the Dune War for Arrakis Smugglers expansion.
Yeah, so this was an exclusive expansion the first time around. So this is the only place to get it. And for the first time, we are making, again, in German and French. And this is one that adds kind of an extra faction to the game, which kind of changes allegiance between the Harkonnen and the Atreides as the game progresses, lending their aid in different ways to different factions. And it kind of adds a very interesting new dynamic. The game kind of changes as the smugglers kind of switch from one to the other. And so basically, you need to make the best use of them while you have them, because eventually they're quite fickle and they're going to leave you and be fighting you later on.
Yeah, in this case, it was very much as we did, as I told before about the Desert War in zooming in. Smugglers were already handled in the game with 3 event cards, basically. And so what we did with the Smuggler expansion, we direct you to take those 3 cards out and replace them, and adding a whole faction to the game. And as Diego said, it's a neutral faction, basically, that works in the favor of the Harkonnen at the beginning, because they are paying a tribute in spice to the Harkonnen. But eventually, Paul Muad'Dib can move them to his side, also violently, because as in the books, you can attack the smugglers, harvesters to capture them. And also, this was important because the smugglers are tied very much with the character of Gurney Halleck. And so Gurney Halleck in the game entered by playing some cards. In this case, he's tied to the smugglers faction.
Okay, I want to do one small side note here, just to point out that people have been asking about the Spacing Guild expansion. So just to remind people that this will not be part of the pre-order campaign, because this is a retail expansion. So it will be available on retail. It's already available in English. It will be available soon, again, probably October, in German and French. So we didn't want to overstep that. So this is not actually part of the pre-order. You can get it on retail to complete your collection.
But what is on the pre-order is this, which is my favorite addition to the game. To be honest, it looks amazing on a table.
Yeah, if you missed this the first time around, I think you've been seeing people singing the praises of the playmat. You don't want to miss it. I think it really gives you a very nice playing surface for the game, because the game is 2 huge boards. The playmat is one unified thing. It really came out well. The colors pop. You have all the Spacing Guild material there on the side. It just feels good. It's a very big and lush playmat.
And we've got, considering that the board is huge, it's 1 meter by 70. So having everything in one piece, with no creases, with nothing, having it like that feels really, really, really amazing.
It's so great to move the armies around on it. It's amazing.
Actually, I have an early sample of this. I gave my daughter. She has it in her bedroom. It's kind of just a mat on the floor. She plays on it. It's good. You can use it as that as well.
It is.
Yeah,
it withstands that. And we have a final cosmetic upgrade, which I know people also seem to really like.
Yeah, so the plastic token is something that was added post-campaign during the pledge manager. So some people never realized this was an option. So it was missed by some people. So this people, this is a chance for you to get these upgrades. So these are all the remaining tokens in engraved full color plastics. We had an initial issue with some of the colors being distinguishable. So these sets will already have the improvements that we made, that we're giving as replacements to all the original backers. So yeah, this is a nice blink to round out your game.
So I want to get to one final thing, and this has actually been the most asked thing in the comments, and I kept wanting to post these questions, but we wanted to save it for the end. Tiago and it has been working extremely hard on this, which is, I think, is really one of the most requested, if not the most requested item across the internet, and that is a special edition of the rulebook.
Yeah, the Deluxe rulebook. This has been highly requested, and thankfully we've managed to get approval from the licensor to do this, and I'm very excited about this product. I want to have it. So this is a nice hardcover rulebook containing the rules from the core box, the possible futures, Old Man of the Desert, all the stretch goals, as well as all the expansions, Smugglers, Desert War, Space and Guild, everything in a single rulebook. With any of the updates and fixes that we've done since the release. And the coolest thing is the other half of the rulebook is basically an art book. So we're collecting, all the amazing art done in the game with some of the fluff text. So you have all of that on your fingertips in this very nice little book.
Yeah, for me,
not a little. It should be about 120 pages, actually.
Yeah, of course, it's a compendium, but I mean, that's one of the things that I really love, the fact that there's a chance to see the art in full glory, because of course we have it in the cards, but you're engrossed in the game, so sometimes, of course, we don't stop at watching all the tiny details on the art, so it's really good to have it there. And yes, we took the chance, since now the game is out since a while. Of course, you can realize that even if we play tested the game heavily, when the game is out in the world, games that are played are counted by the thousands rather than by the hundreds, as in our playtests. Some questions came up, and so we took the chance to make some little tweaks. We are incredibly happy that the fact that the game is robust as it is. It didn't need any major overhaul or nothing. It simply needed a couple of modifications. In particular, I can say that we are answering the queries by the fans that are finding difficulties in winning with the Atreides. Our developers and co-designer Michele Garbuggio is very much sure that there are strategies by the Fremen Atreides that are yet to be discovered. And I was playing a game this morning, for example, and Marco was showing me some of that. The Fremen war machine can be really hard to counter if you know how to profit from it. Yeah, but anyway, there were a couple of things that we changed also almost last minute before the game was released, that we came back. So you will have the chance to see that in detail, because we are putting the changes in a frequently asked question document. But those tweaks are going to make an impact on re-leveling the odds in the game, especially if you...
Right, and so this version, like we updated some of the text to make many of the entries in the FAQ irrelevant, because it already addresses them in the flow of the text itself, and adding those 3 or 4 rules updates that we made that you can see on the latest version of the FAQ. And of course, like, you don't have to buy this rulebook. We are making the updated PDF available to everybody as well to download. So if they want to reference the latest version of the rulebook, whether it's the regular rulebook, you can find it on our website. But in the campaign itself, we are also making the exclusive edition of the rulebook available to download. Not the compendium, but just the exclusive edition rulebook with possible futures and all that. So you can have that PDF saved for easy reference. And yeah, and that's about it. that's the smorgasbord.
I think that is a lot. This hour flew by. And hopefully we have been able to either reveal the information you were looking for or answer all of your questions that you may have had. If not, please feel free to go to the GameFound campaign or pre-order and leave questions there in the comments section. And speaking of that,
we'll be around.
Yeah, we will definitely be around for the
making
entire
rounds.
duration. And speaking of the GameFound, that is going to launch in just a few minutes. You'll be able to place your pre-order for Dune War for Arrakis and for Desert War. And somebody did ask, I want to make it clear, Desert War is available with the Kickstarter exclusive
from camps.
Thank you. And for people who already have everything, you are able to get that by itself. The link to that should be in the comments and also in the comments to the side that are live, and then also in the comments below here.
So one small thing. So we have worked hard we are working to improve our shipping costs. So I hope you will like what you see in terms of how we managed to find ways to reduce things here and there. We are actively working to answer that feedback in terms of getting a shipping cost that matches the product and is competitive. So we hope you enjoy what we have on offer, and let's launch the Desert War.
Well, thank you everybody for joining in. We really enjoyed hosting today. This is an exciting project for us. Thank you, Tiago. Thank you, Francesco. Thank you so much for being here. And thank you to ABU Games here in Boise, Idaho. We had a blast setting up our show here, doing our first on-location stream, and just being amongst thousands of games while doing this, I think makes me really, really excited to play Dune War for Arrakis again, actually. So I think with that, our show's over, and we will leave you with another look at the trailer.
Bye-bye.